Wow.
Yeah, that got a little dark.
Some of your favorite animation has polyamory in it. I went through the last 25 years, found a bunch of examples. I'll show you what I mean. But first, what is up? I am Genevieve. I'm polyamorous for 13 years. I do polyamory education on Instagram, TikTok, and Patreon. I also have a second YouTube channel where I do, question and answers and live chats. And I have a podcast called I Could Never, which has real polyamory and non-monogamy stories. But on this channel, we have fun. I take a look at non-monogamy in film and TV. What do they do well? What's messy and they get wrong? Drop a comment below and hit like to tell the algorithm that I'm a channel worth watching. And let's get into it. Today I'm looking at Western animation, by the way. There's a whole bunch of examples in anime. That's going to be its own essay. And I'm going to be rating the shows from how serious they take polyamory to how much it is the punchline, how real or fake it seems. Even if it's between sci-fi alien monsters, does their love feel realistic? Spoilers ahead for all of these shows. If you haven't seen one, you can skip to the next chapter. BoJack Horseman is a dark comedy, one of the few animated series that Netflix gave a chance beyond 1 or 2 seasons. It is about a washed-up former TV star who is very self-destructive and alcoholic. And in season 4, a possible relative comes and seeks him out.
What's your first name?
Hollyhock.
And your last name?
Mannheim, Guerrero, Robinson, Zilber, Slug, Sung, Fonzarelli, McQuack.
Got it.
Hollyhock was adopted when she was younger and was raised by a polycule of 8 polyamorous dads.
I'm BoJack Horseman.
Yeah, we know. I'm her dad, Steve Mannheim, and I'm the wrong Mannheim to mess with.
I'm Deshaun Mannheim, and I'm probably the right Mannheim to mess with, unless we're talking about a dance battle.
I'm Gregory Sung. I only watch foreign films. That's my deal.
Arturo Fonzarelli.
And I'm Quackers.
It seems like they did a really good job raising Hollyhock.
Well, what do your dads say when you cry?
They say it's okay to cry and that I shouldn't feel bad about feeling bad.
Well, that's good advice, right?
They're really good dads.
She's sweet and emotionally mature. She got good advice from them growing up, So she's good. She's actually one of the more stable characters in the entire series. And I love seeing that because how often on screen do we see somebody who's raised by polyamorous people who's well-adjusted and awesome? This is a good family. This is a stable family. There's a reason a lot of us were like, oh, Hollyhock's dads, because it's really nice and heartwarming to see stability and abundant love and unconditional care on screen the way that we see it in real life. So they do show this as a loving home. They raised a good kid. It has a lot of realism points. The men themselves are caricatures with just one defining trait. 8 dads is kind of wild, but it's a really sweet part of the show. So it's confirmed there is polyamory in the DCEU, or at least in this timeline. I'm not sure how canon works anymore. Young Justice is an animated series of young DC characters. There's a brief polyamorous triad that has a baby together. It's not a deep story, but it is an overt polyamorous story. So we meet Lagan, or Lagoon Boy. He's a prominently featured member of the team. This is before he joins the Justice League as one of the Aquamen. And then some point before season 4, he joins Coral and Rodin into a polyamorous triad. Coral is pregnant, and basically all 3 talk about being co-parents together.
Does Calderon not understand how close our baby's arrival is? What if the big day comes early and you're not here?
I'm sure he would rather reconsider than have to explain your absence to our soon-to-be-born child.
Coral, Rodin, my loves. I will be back in a few short days. Be patient, little one.
It's actually pretty sweet and pretty wholesome. And then we briefly see the 3 of them happily co-parenting. There's not a ton of layers to it. They're just sort of look, it's polyamory. So these 3 are great, It's a pretty simple storyline, but they are loving. They're having a kid together. And all of this is treated as a valid and even nice way to raise a family. Bob's Burgers is a sitcom about a family owns a burger shop. There's actually a few different examples in this show. So the first one I came across was this baseball player Torpedo, who actually has like full-ass families in other states.
Got a whole bunch of families spread out over the 50 states. When spring training starts, you get your Florida wife. When it's regular season, it's open season, if you know what I'm talking about. You kiss your home field wife and kids goodbye, you tell them you'll miss them, and you do, but you still take some of their toys and re-gift them for your away kids.
I bet you're a great dad.
And 3 great husbands.
And you get the sense that the families don't know about each other, so it's essentially just cheating, but a very complex, deeply committed version of cheating in multiple places. However, Tina, a very boy-crazy character, hears about this, wants to help out with the baseball team, and then asks this question.
Is it possible to be in love with 25 people at once?
So you can see the wheels are already turning. She's already imagining what it would be like to love many people. Put a pin in that real quick. I'm going to circle back around to her. Bob and Linda, Tina's parents, they have their own little side quest that's like kind of an interesting flirtation with non-monogamy.
Linda, I kissed your sister. I was on drugs that the dentist gave me, and I thought it was you, and now your sister thinks we're going steady or something.
That is wonderful!
You're not upset?
No, I'm not upset. Gail is finally feeling happier and healthier, and you want to give her whatever she needs, Bobby.
Whatever she needs? What if she wants to have sex with me?
Whatever she needs.
Sex?
Now, Linda comes up with a scheme to basically trick Gail into thinking she's having an affair with her own husband. She's like, my sister's always wanted what I've had. Maybe if she thinks she's in a relationship with you, then she'll get confident enough to go get her own man. Great plan. And so Gail is like basically harassing Bob, and Bob is not pushing back on it because his wife asked him not to.
She had her toes on my crotch. I can't do this anymore, Lynn.
No, this is working. Now let's go have dessert.
And then it gets to a head where like Gail actually climbs on top of Bob, and that's when it's enough for Linda. Now, girl, what'd you think was going to happen? Like, that's when the whole charade stops. However, that's like swinging adjacent. There is actual swinging in this episode, and it's also weird. Linda's parents go to a retirement home, which turns out to be full of swingers. Side note, elderly people being non-monogamous in cartoons, like, that's going to be a theme.
Linda, we've been served with a notice of failure to perform.
What? Failure? Why? What?
Your parents RSVP'd no to the potluck.
It's clear they have no intention of taking part fully in the activities here.
And those who don't play can't stay.
So I was watching this episode with a partner, and I was like, ew, the swingers like make you lose your housing if you want to have sex with them. Like, what? And he was like, yeah, I don't even think they would do that in Florida. I'm from Florida. I mean, you're not wrong. So to protect their housing, Bob convinces them to go to the swinger party. And like, I just hate that whole premise. You shouldn't be like coerced into group sex. Otherwise you get kicked out of your home. I hope that's not a thing. That better not be a thing. And Linda's at first grossed out. I think mostly because it's her parents. I think sometimes shows will do a gross out humor of like, oh, you're old. That's gross. And that's the joke. I don't think that's what they're doing here. I think it's more of like, ew, my parents, you know? But then she looks out the window and sees they're actually connecting and kissing each other and getting closer, you know, and bringing their relationship to a nicer place. And that part I did like. Doesn't mean Bob and Linda ever want to go back there or visit their parents there or anything like that.
Well, why was Mr. Madison sitting on Gram's lap? She never lets us sit there, and I have asked.
Honey, he's old. He thought she was a chair.
Right. You kids didn't see any of the party last night, did you?
No, but we could hear it.
Those people should learn to have a potluck without popping all those balloons.
And without having really loud sex.
And of course, it's not lost on Tina, who ends up being like just a very like sex-obsessed teenager, right? And originally I felt weird covering her because I was like, I don't really want to like project polyamory or non-monogamy of any kind onto a child. That was like me going into this. The show makes her a very sexual character. And to be fair, she doesn't actually like hook up with people. She's just like boy crazy and imagined. She thinks about it all the time, right? And so it doesn't ever actually get into gross territory. It's more of like, yeah, a pubescent, hormonal teen is going to be thinking about these more adult themes and not acting on it. Like case in point, she does a lot of fantasy writing, and one of her stories is discovered where this happens.
Wasn't easy dating 15 zombies at once. Oh wait, yes it was. Thank you, zombie boyfriends.
She dreams of having 15 boyfriends. She's like enjoying imagining the time management of it all, you know? She's a budding polyamorous icon. I get it. I get why people see themselves or see a younger version of themselves in Tina, because like a lot of people who are polyamorous are like, oh, I think I might have always liked people this way. There is one point where she tries to make it a reality to have 2 boyfriends at the same time. She goes to a dance with 2 different guys. They're kind of competing. And then she's like, what if we, maybe I don't have to. What if we? And they're like, nah, hard pass. Which unfortunately happens, A lot of times we learn we're not monogamous before we find partners who are into it. But yeah, I'm sold. So we'll start with Torpedo. The idea of a dude who travels having multiple families, that unfortunately does happen, whether the families know about it or not. And the joke is kind of that he's doing that, but not the loving a few people part, the fact that he's a scumbag about it. So let's look at Tina. She is a preteen thinking about love and sex, which, that's real. That's puberty. Her dreaming of 15 or 25 boyfriends, that's a lot less common. But especially being pragmatic and thinking about time management, like she could probably go for it. Like I said, icon in the making. Archer is a workplace comedy about a secret spy agency. And the second to last season, Pam is polyamorous.
I don't know if I want to fight you, be you, or sleep with you. Let's start with the first and see how it goes.
So she goes against the Swiss agent Alessia. And right away, Pam is just like googly-eyed, frozen, mouth open, like can't help herself. And it was kind of wild to see Pam like kind of speechless and shy because usually in most situations, she's got real top energy. She's got a lot of friends with benefits and she'll hook up with a lot of different people, but like you never really see her have romance or softness. And now she's questioning that.
Holy shit. Pam in a relationship? Usually you're all wham bam, don't get attached, ma'am. Or sir. Or them.
I know. I thought I'd feel trapped, and I know this sounds dumb, but I've never felt more free.
Pam, from the bottom of my heart, that does sound dumb, but I'm happy for you.
And side note, in the same episode, they meet a really rad security guard.
You two are just like the sons I would have had if I hadn't predicted that end-stage capitalism would make it impossible to support a family on my salary.
Amen, sister.
And she basically just helps them rob the bank.
Get the hell out of here.
We owe you dinner.
I heard threesome.
And then Alessia bails them out so they can escape the police.
Hey, good news, guys. My special friend is out back with wheels.
Special friend? What did I tell you about fear of commitment?
And that's when Pam lets slip how she feels.
And she can bake? Good God, I love this woman.
Wow, just blurting it out, huh?
And then Archer, who's been her friends with benefits for like over a decade and they're very close, he wants to help them get together.
Come on, just ask her to be your girlfriend already.
Girlfriend? Ew, no. Alessia, will you be my polyamorous primary? Yes!
Oh, you guys.
Which is like kind of cute, but also not how people talk.
Just give me 4.2 seconds. Klaus, you're down to secondary. Ugh, don't be a baby. And call Esmeralda and knock her down to 3.
Maybe an unpopular opinion. I don't hate it as satire. If it's supposed to be cute, which I don't think it was. I think it was supposed to be a joke. But if it was supposed to be cute and be like, this is normal, then I hate that so much. I want to burn that with fire. And this is not a video about hierarchy versus non-hierarchy. We're having fun today. You can go see my Instagram and TikTok where I've like most of my recent videos have been tackling that topic, much to my chagrin. We're having fun today. I'm not getting into it with you. But other than that, they treat polyamory with respect. Pam and Alessia are probably the strongest relationship in the whole series. And Pam herself is awesome. Everyone loves her.
But you're the only one everyone likes.
God damn it, Pam. Why are you always the best?
And in the final episodes, tribute is paid to like Pam and Archer's, I wanted to say bromance. That's not the right word, but like kind of.
Come at me, bro.
They have this long-term, close, friends with benefits, like duo connection, and that has never been threatened by Alessia. Like, Archer is so happy that she's with Alessia.
Alessia made us a care package. Kaboom.
Okay, you can never break up with her.
I love her.
And still, when they go to Carnival, Pam and Archer are a duo.
This really how you want to go out?
Uh-huh.
But it's us.
There's nothing to discuss.
And in the very last episode, in the very last scene, the very last shot is Pam and Archer agreeing to be business partners, and the elevator closes on them. Let's go be a duo. And it wasn't romantic, but it was significant. So Pam and Alessia talk openly. They're very loving. They get a ding for the dialogue because people don't talk that way. But everyone is otherwise great. Adventure time, following Finn the human and Jake the dog, who have magic powers in this cheerful, post-apocalyptic, magical land. And all the episodes kind of weave in and out of like deep existential questions or absurdity or just like playfulness or nihilism. Like there's something for everybody. So when somebody recommended to me Tree Trunks, I went to the Tree Trunks episode. Now, Tree Trunks is the name of a little elderly elephant. And she's got this southern accent and she's very sweet, but she's also pretty rad.
Wake up!
And by that, I mean she's like kind of an anti-fascist revolutionary leader.
If given the opportunity, would you lead a small group of resistance fighters straight into the Hornet's den?
You bet your wet booty. Do you all have any guns?
Nope.
I don't have time for campfire stories. I'm a mother of 6.
Like, okay, Tree Trunks, I'm listening. But she's also a cute little mom who likes to bake in the woods, right? Like she's lived well and she loves easily, you know, and she's very like comfortable with herself. One of the first episodes that we see her in, when she encounters a monster, she like puts on some lipstick and tries to seduce it so that it'll go away. You know, it's like she's got these wiles about her. So I knew she had had like a few husbands over the course of her life. I just always thought they were one after the other, you know, something I would not call non-monogamy. It's serial monogamy, but there is some overlap. While she's married to Mr. Pig, she gets visited by aliens and it's revealed she's like got this secret second family.
Who the slop is this?
This is my alien husband.
And I'm assuming she's had the family for a while. Like, I don't know how pygmy magical elephant gestation, how long that is.
My babies.
So that kind of sucks that she lied about it. Like, this is all a shock to Mr. Pig. So it's cool that she came clean. Sucks that she lied to begin with. It's cool that if we have non-monogamy on screen, that it's like a person with dope politics, ready to say power to the people. Like, I'm for that. That could have been worse. So here's another secret family, only if she's the one giving birth to all these kids, that's going to be harder to hide. So I don't really see that happening. And also she like introduced them and had them hold hands right away. But all things considered, I didn't really feel mocked here. Futurama is a sci-fi comedy where a man frozen in the 21st century wakes up 1,000 years later and has to adjust to the new world. So this show actually brings us some polygamy and then like a broader polyamory subplot. So first we meet this character, Old Man Waterfall. He's a civil rights lawyer with a lot of patriotism and it moves people to tears.
So much do I love that flag. I love it even more than I love my 7 wives. That's right, I'm a polygamist. Yet I would gladly eat a flag myself if it would protect the freedoms of the proud people who salute that flag. Yay! Freedoms such as polygamy.
So that's the whole joke. Like, they don't really go much beyond that, but I liked it. But there's a much bigger polyamorous plot. There's a Futurama miniseries called The Beast with a Billion Backs, where the current universe sort of has a schism and then creates this portal to another universe. And around the same time, Fry falls in love.
Come here, winner. Come here, loser.
What are you doing? My face is over here.
This is my boyfriend, silly.
Well, how can you have 2 boyfriends?
Oh, I don't. I have 5. Meet Chew, Bolt, and Dulu, and Shlomo.
Ni hao.
Girl, what? That's how she introduces that she's polyamorous.
Welcome to the relationship, buddy.
Like, that isn't how any of this works.
I don't know what to do, Leela. Should I move in with Colleen and her 4 other boyfriends?
If there's a delicious cake, isn't it better to have one slice than none at all?
Okay, people aren't cake. Is this weird thing that people will do in real life where they find out that you have multiple partners and then suddenly they imagine it like a cake or a pie that has multiple pieces out of it. And it's like, I'm a woman who loves a few people. Why are you picturing me like a baked good?
Want a slice of delicious cake?
Anyway, his friends give him terrible advice and convince him to move in. This is why we do not ask monogamous people for dating advice in polyamory, because if he came to me, I'd be like, boy, run.
I've got good wine, 5 sweethearts, and today I was promoted to chief of police.
Ew, she's a cop? Also, all of the boyfriends who seemed so happy with each other, they are now written to bicker and resent each other. I love laughing at polyamorous people, but you've like written people who I've never met before, so it's not funny because it doesn't hit.
You look really nice.
Thanks, I got dressed up for my date. Oop, there he is. Don't wait up.
Like, who does that? And when Fry moves out, they show her like just instantly getting over it because she's got other people. It's like, that's not how that works either. Who hurt you, man? Like, what polyamorous woman did you fall for? And then you had a bad time and now you're making that our problem. So heartbroken, he volunteers to be the one to go through the portal, risking his life because he's sort of like, nothing matters anymore, which, you know, heartbreak is universal. So Fry passes through, and what comes through is a bunch of tentacles. And then the whole world becomes like this love cult hive mind.
Stop! In the name of love!
And love is like something you have to run away from, like it's coming for you, it's gonna attack you. Again, who was she? And Fry becomes Tentacle Pope. He summons Colleen to come, and then she says the most frustrating monologue in maybe this whole bunch of things that I've watched.
You weren't enough for me. No one man is. You were great. But you weren't Chinese, you weren't Cameroonian, and you certainly were not the king of karaoke as you so often claimed.
So this is actually kind of close to a satire of polyamory because there is this whole thing, this idea of like Pokemon, gotta catch them all. Some people will enter polyamory being like, I want one of every kind of person. But then you had to make it racist. You had to be like, I want one of every kind of ethnicity. Again, I want to be roasted. Just stop bumming me out.
I am Yivo.
So the hive mind is David Cross and his name is Yivo. Or their name, Shkler's name. They have neo-pronouns. But then Leela says, you know, this is not all about love. This is all about sex. And everybody kind of snaps out of it at that point and is like, wait, I thought this was about love. But I'm like, wait, I thought y'all were possessed by a hive mind. Now you suddenly can just stop.
It's not like I hurt anyone.
Yes, you did, you dumb calamari.
But that's when Yivo says, you know, let's try it again. I want to actually date all 20 trillion of you. Gives everybody their body back and says, you know, let me know if you want to go on a date. And so there's an Earth Council of like 12 people that decide on behalf of 20 trillion that everybody is going to go on a date.
Commence preparations for our date with Yivo.
And I wrote in my notes, I've never seen couple centricity with 13 people before. A lot of times in polyamory, a couple will just like make unilateral decisions. They're like, we're a duo, we're the deciders, and we're going to announce to everybody how it's going to be. And I've never seen 13 people make that sort of group decision on behalf of a bigger group. So points for creativity. And then like everybody has a great time.
I had a wonderful time.
But a few of them start to rethink things.
All in favor of dumping Yivo? Aye.
Earth Council decides to break up, and then Yivo proposes, and even fewer people, there's like 5 people there, accept the proposal on behalf of all of humanity.
Yivo proposed. We're moving in with Shkler.
And you're telling me no one out of 20 trillion would say no? Not one? But it's a little weird that moving in with Yivo is like these golden escalators into the sky, and then they arrive among clouds and harps, like they even call it heaven.
I'm sorry, Bender. Robots don't go to heaven.
You're saying that like group love and polyamorous love is like a death cult? But then Yivo says, now you got to be polyfidelitous. Polyfidelity is we're in a multiple person relationship, but it's closed. And polyfidelity only really works if like everybody wants to do that and it can be like changed at any time, not if it's enforced. And of course, Fry doesn't really want to do it, so he reaches out to Bender. Like it's not gonna stick if somebody doesn't want that. And Yivo sees that Fry broke the polyfidelity, and so now all 20 trillion people are broken up with and have to go back home. Again, assuming non-monogamy is like comprised of some main character decision makers and everyone else is NPCs. It's not what we're doing here. Not what we're doing here. And of course, polyamorous Colleen, who's never satisfied with one person, she's finally happy with Yivo, presumably dumping all her other boyfriends at once. So I'm almost disappointed. Like, I felt like hungrier for a roast, if that makes sense. Like, I wanted satire and I just got, I don't know, somebody who doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. It frames polyamory like it's just inherently harmful. This whole arc was just exaggerated stereotypes. Big Mouth is a Netflix show about like pubescent teens figuring things out. And it's never personally been my taste, just like, I think the ratio of dick and fart jokes to non-dick and fart jokes, the ratio's off in my opinion, but it's got some big names and it is funny a lot of the time, some of the time. And one of the characters comes out as bi and polyamorous, and he's voiced by Jason Mantzoukas, who's like my celebrity crush, unhinged category. So just like with Bob's Burgers, I felt wary to cover a kid, you know? I don't ever want to be seen, even of a cartoon kid, as like projecting polyamory onto them, right? But just like Tina was a very sexual character on Bob's Burgers, Jay Bilzerian is just a horn dog.
Okay, how about this? We'll say Jessie puts peanut butter on her dog's dick and licks it off, yum, yum, yum.
Aren't you supposed to put the peanut butter on your own dick?
Oh, wow. That would feel way better.
And he's in a polyamorous relationship with Brad and Suzette, who are two anthropomorphized couch cushions. I mean, normally I probably wouldn't see it this way, but because he comes out as polyamorous, like, I gotta include it. I don't know what to tell you. And it's more than just a kid has imaginary friends or a pubescent teen humping a couch. It's very much those things too. But the boy, like, creates romantic Valentine's Day dates for both of them. And we see him do the sitcom trope of like running back and forth between two dates that are happening at the same time. Why would you make the dates at the same time? You know, it's like whoever thought, oh, well, you have two partners, there's only one Valentine's Day, they must happen at the same time, and you just exhaust yourself going back and forth. And because it's such a ridiculous situation, it really shines a light on the fact that like a lot of monogamous norms can be pretty exhausting if you don't want to do them. You know, even monogamous people get exhausted by one Valentine's Day, you know? It's like, why am I obligated? I think it shines a light on like obligation and the idea of I have to be or I should be, you know? And Jay Bilzerian's whole arc is sort of like figuring out who he is and what he wants, not what he should be doing, right? But he gets all caught up in like labels and boxes, you know, where he's obsessed with figuring out which categories he fits into. And then Martin Short, as a queer magician, and all of these queer ghosts help him figure it out.
Listen up, jerks. I've got big news. I, Jay Bilzerian, am a bisexual, cisgendered, polyamorous magician.
Again, this character is sort of showing how stressful these defaults can be, especially during such a big time of change and uncertainty like puberty. See, I did it. I made it about something, not just about fucking couches. A pubescent teen humping a couch is real. Like, that's real. Imagining fake partners, questioning what label fits, and deciding to come out to everyone, you know? So it's silly, but I think to the best of this show's ability, it treats the topic with respect. Castlevania is a dark fantasy action-adventure series based off of the video game series of the same name. We primarily follow three main characters: the monster hunter, Trevor, the scholar magician, Sypha, and the half-human son of Dracula, Adrian Tepish, aka Alucard. Over the course of the series, our protagonists' relationships to each other and the world, they end up as something much different than when they started. At the end of season 1, we see the trio of them like kind of forming into an alliance. Over the span of season 2, the trio becomes like much closer friends. And in season 3, the trio actually splits up for a bit. Alucard stays home alone in his castle, while Trevor and Sypha go off on adventures together, and they become romantic and sensual. And Alucard misses them very much. Like, he kind of goes a little stir crazy without them.
What do you think, Trevor? I think I hate everything and everybody, so I'm gonna get drunk on beer that's been brewed in an old sheep carcass.
So, you know, not doing the best without them. So in that same season, Alucard meets two vampire hunters, Sumi and Taka. And they grow closer and soon have an intimate entanglement. I don't know, it's such a dramatic show. I feel like I want to put on a cape and use a lot of dramatic words. But unfortunately, this trio intimacy was all a trap, and they try to kill him. So he manages to take them out before they can do the same. But that betrayal, it kind of breaks him. And he was already kind of broken. So then comes season 4, and we meet Greta, who is asking Alucard to protect her town. And her trust and her wit and her charm, it's kind of healing for Alucard.
It has been difficult.
I can see that. I mean, I had a boyfriend and a girlfriend at the same time once, but they never tried to kill me. Actually, no. I tell a lie. His wife went for me with a pitchfork.
And it's also in this season that the original trio gets back together, and Trevor and Sypha are reunited with Alucard. Because Sypha and Trevor are romantic, they're going to have a baby together. Trevor and Alucard are best friends in a very significant way, right? The first time we see Alucard so overjoyed is when he sees Trevor again. They call him weirdly happy. Sypha and Greta also become close. And at the same time, there's implication that Greta and Alucard have been or will be romantic together. And by the end, Alucard convinces Trevor and Sypha to stay with him, raise their baby all together. And Sypha closes out their adventure looking lovingly at both of the men as she cries tears at their family's completion. So I don't know if you would call this a quad so much as just a complex polycule, but there's 4 of them. I think quad could make sense. So for Castlevania, their love is strong, they're building a family in a triad, even showing the dark side like a threesome gone wrong or Greta getting attacked by her ex-meta, like when polyamory gets messy. That can happen, so feels pretty real.
But it's looking now like maybe I can stay. Is that any good?
Teenage Euthanasia is an Adult Swim show about a mom who dies and comes back as a zombie. And in one of the episodes, their Uncle Pete, who runs a funeral home, meets a grieving couple.
I don't know how we'll get through this first night without him. It was always the 3 of us.
Pete, have Lester and I told you how much you remind us of Loki?
You're practically his twin.
The couple invites him over for dinner, and eager to cheer them up, he agrees. He walks in to see pictures of the trio everywhere. Now, he's still assuming that Loki was their son.
If you like those pictures, you'll love the ones upstairs.
And just a good rule to live by, don't go into a stranger's home in Florida. Definitely don't go upstairs.
That's my favorite portrait of the 3 of us.
And they're naked after luring him into their bedroom. I'm pretty sure that is a crime.
Have you ever heard of polyamory?
Oh, it's time to renew our vows.
Once the divorce rate topped 90%, Florida decided to make marriages auto-expire every 24 hours.
And even though he's surprised, he, isn't worried about it, even though he should be. But I do appreciate that he's not judgmental, I guess. No, never mind, I take that back. He should be judging them. He should be judging them and leaving immediately. She already stitched Pete's name over Loki. They put Pete's picture over Loki's face. He died yesterday.
Won't you join us, Pete? Till death or 24 hours from now do us part.
I think it would really help us with our money.
And I know this is the joke, but if your partner dies, you don't just go to the store and get a new one. That said, as weird as it is, he's actually having kind of a nice time. But his mom sets him straight and convinces him to leave.
Goodbye, Cuddlefishes. This was cute.
So I'd call this extreme unicorn hunting. It does not happen like this. And that was the joke. But when Pete leaves, he said it was nice. So I think it was weirdly more respectful of polyamory than Futurama was. She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. In short, it's a show about magical space princess superheroes who are fighting against a fascist colonizer regime. And is a reboot of the 1980s show of the same name, which was itself a spin-off of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, which was just one of many extended commercials just to sell toys to the kids of America, except this time for girls. This version, by contrast, I personally think it's a good watch for like any age, any gender. It's got a lot of queer representation. It's very optimistic and inspirational. Like, it's fun and light, but they also tackle some heavy topics. And this show got recommended to me. I think it might be a little bit of a stretch, but I'll play it out and you can let me know what you think. Basically, if I were to see polyamory in this show, it would be with 3 side characters: Kyle, Rogelio, and Lonnie. They are part of the aforementioned colonizer regime, so that already knocks them down a few points in my book. And being side characters, they don't get a ton of screen time. They don't get a ton of lines. Rogelio's kind of like a lizard man who grunts, so we don't super know what's going on inside that head. However, they are very distinctly a trio, and most of their scenes have at least 2, if not all 3 of them together. It's a very caring connection, a lot of protectiveness there. And we get pretty big hints that Kyle and Rogelio are together, or at least wanna be.
I'm great with secrets. Like one time, Kyle told me he had a crush on Rohel. Never mind.
And the creator, Andy Stevenson, like when asked, said, yeah, Kyle and Rogelio are a thing. And in my head, Lonnie's a part of it. So it's like the creator is saying that they were kind of like shipping all 3 of them together, but also that it was kind of headcanon too, that that's not actually in the show. So if I'm meeting the show halfway, I do think I could see it as a V relationship with Kyle as the hinge. But it's hard to really say because, again, there's not a ton of evidence for it. So I definitely debated putting this in the video, but enough people requested it that I was looking into it. And it was the creator's comment that kind of pushed it over the line for me. And I think there's also value in showing like an example that is not as clear cut as the others, because like, much to the disbelief of my haters, I do not see polyamory in everything. I'm not walking around being like, you 3 are friends, you're in a polyamorous triad. Like, nah. So like I said, this trio just barely made the cut because so much of it is headcanon. Everyone does collaborate and supports each other, but we just don't see enough to really go off of. So I'd say it's right in the middle. So Rick and Morty is a dark satirical sci-fi. Rick Sanchez is an alcoholic genius scientist, and Morty is his grandson. So Rick lives with his daughter, his grandkids, and his punching bag of a son-in-law, Jerry, who's actually voiced by Chris Parnell, also the punching bag on Archer. I guess he's just got a voice you want to punch. Anyway, on one of the first Christmas episodes, Jerry's parents visit, and they bring a special guest.
Friend of the family?
The way we see it, he's a part of the family.
Wow.
We looked at life and wondered, how have we spent it? And how do we spend the rest of it? What are we going to be when we die? A list of fears and questions? Or a collection of real experiences?
Holy crap, Joyce, that's amazing.
Then Jacob came into our lives, and we're learning to live again.
All 3 of us. Cool.
Not quite sure what to make of it, though everyone else seems like pretty cool on it. And it's kind of a thing to find some form of non-monogamy, like when you're just aging.
It's an invitation to let go of the body and an opportunity to share and experiment.
Sounds like you're about to say Jacob is your lover.
No. Jacob is your mother's lover. I watch them, sometimes from a chair and sometimes from a closet, almost always dressed as Superman.
Originally, this was the only part that I remembered about this, right? And I was like, I don't know, polyamory, like, is that it's non-monogamy? It's like a cuck fantasy open relationship thing, but does it really qualify? And the thing is like, they bring him home for Christmas. You know, they call him family. They say we're finishing life together, like the 3 of us, you know? So even if Jerry's dad and Jacob aren't like romantic or directly sexual with each other, they still have a trio going on.
The food goes in your mouth, girl.
Something sat a little weird with me. Like, so they have Jacob. He's this serene, peaceful, loving being that's like of service to everyone. Like, we don't really learn about who he is. We just see what he can give to other people. You know, helping the parents find new lease on life and helping Summer get back with her boyfriend right then and there on Christmas Day. Like, the only black guy in the room, being helpful.
You did it again, Cubby. Come here.
It's not like bad, but it don't look great. It's fine. I'm not like cringing at it. I am squinting at it, you know? I am side-eyeing it a little bit. But I mean, headline thought they are happy, and that is nice to see. Now, there's another example that I didn't know. That's the thing with like these sci-fi cartoons. Like, I don't super know what relates to like real world polyamory, but Rick, in another episode, falls in love with a hive mind.
Hello, Rick. Long time no see.
Unity? This is, Unity. We sort of used to, date.
Is that non-monogamy? I don't know, you know, it's like based off of what happened in Futurama, it's a little bit different situation, but like, I don't know, the idea of a hive mind at the very least blurring what monogamy looks like.
Maybe I just missed being with a collective.
Yes, Rick. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And side note, there's a little like reference to the show Community in this because Dan Harmon, who made Community, he also made this show.
Now make them all make fun of the blonde one. Now make them all do it on the table. Can't believe you created a whole show for me. Now cancel it. Okay, now put it back on.
And if you're a Community fan and you didn't see my Troy and Abed video yet, I'll link that down below. So I'm including this because of the like aesthetic parallels to what happened with Futurama. But at the end of the day, I don't think this applies to polyamory because it's one entity, Rick, with another entity, Unity. And yeah, she like takes the form of a billion people, but she's still one consciousness. Am I in a polyamorous relationship with like the limbs of my partner's body? You know what I mean? It's like, that's kind of how I see it. So I'm going to say not polyamory as a contrast to Futurama, which very much was. And since it's not non-monogamy, it doesn't get a rating. Get out of here. Judging only the triad here. As far as it being a joke, it is, but I think mainly because of Jerry's reaction. Like, the rest of the family says that it's sweet or even aspirational. But I don't know how often this kind of age gap happens. The second best hospital in the galaxy is basically inspired by like Grey's Anatomy and ER and all of these like medical romance drama shows. And the creator herself said that her mom is bi, her dad is gay, and her sister's polyamorous. So like that is coming through in her writing and in this show. And you can tell.
I've had so many wives, so many husbands, so many poly compounds. Many poly compounds.
Yet another sci-fi setting, but it makes sense. Like if you're building a world from scratch and you wish things were more normal in this world, you can make them more normal in that one. The two main characters are doctors, best friends, I would argue queer platonic life partners, Clack and Sleech. And while I like this show, I find all of the names of characters to be so grotesque, so like hard and clunky and gross to say. It's almost like a tactile thing. Like I hate saying these characters' names. So Sleech has romantic tension with Ploup. But while she's getting to know and showing interest in him, she tells a client this about her best friend.
Perhaps Glob is to me what Clack is to you.
I would manipulate anyone to get back to Clack. Home is Clack to her. I felt it.
She thinks about her as where home is. If she imagines her life ending, she wants it to end next to her.
I want to die slipping into the Gargolian sands of obsolescence, high out of my mind, next to Clack, not here with you.
You would want to get back to Clack to die.
And when people say what's the difference between a platonic life partnership and a best friend, that, man, like that. I feel like when people don't see the difference there, they're like trying to not see the difference there. You know what I mean? So that is firmly established, these two life partners. And they each have their own romantic and sensual interests outside. And they don't mind talking about it with each other and sharing about it openly. In fact, Sleech and Ploup get so hot and heavy, they even hook up in front of Clack.
My cloaca's never bloomed like this before.
And to be fair, they're under this like aphrodisiac spell, you know? Sleech later is like, I don't want a boyfriend. I'm not trying to be your mate, you know? And tries to walk it back. It was just the aphrodisiac spell. But Clack calls her out on that.
From all I've read, squabs only intensify desire. They don't create it.
And encouraging her to explore that. And from there, Sleech and Ploup are sort of on their way towards monogamy, you know, like there's this push-pull, will I commit, will I not, situationship, you know, she's also interested in this guy, Matt, but she's always like with one or the other. And Sleech is also into Clack's brother, has been with him in the past, jokes that he's her former and future lover.
Can't say I'm surprised to see you here, former and future lover. But I'm with Ploup now.
So as a confirmation, I'm close. I'm serially monogamous, right? Like, I can imagine us getting together in the future, but I'm not going to act on that while I have a boyfriend. But Clack is also her partner, right? Like when Clack leaves for the weekend, she's like, you're gonna leave me all alone?
I have to do what the bone wants.
I guess I'll just spend the holiday completely alone with my boyfriend.
So if someone has just one romantic partner and just one platonic partner, it's sort of a case by case. Some people consider themselves to still be monogamous because they're only sleeping with one person. Some people have a more expansive idea of what polyamory can mean or be, and they consider themselves polyamorous, and that it doesn't matter that they're only sleeping with one of them, that they're both still partners. I think 6 in one, half a dozen in the other, whatever feels true for you, you know? But in this case, in this show, I don't think the characters are trying to view it that way, so I'm not going to push too hard to like label it polyamory. It does remind me of a lot of polyamorous dynamics, and I think if you relate to it and you're polyamorous, that would make sense.
Have a beautiful climax!
So if I am looking at this as polyamory with one romantic and one platonic life partner, the platonic connection gets fleshed out a lot. The romantic dating is oddly some of the most down to earth of any of these shows. I think the only thing keeping it from being more serious around polyamory is that a lot of it's implied and even ambiguous. So if you are lucky enough to not know what Paradise PD is, maybe I just like save you and keep your peace and you just don't have to think about it. Just carry on with your day and with your life and act like it doesn't exist. It's basically of this like school of animation that's like a copy of a copy of a copy of Family Guy. It's trying to be Family Guy, but it's just more immature, more conservative, more hateful and mean and like punching down. Just a lot of like shit and fart and fat jokes and slut jokes and okay, you know, a lot of times they'll just be like, look, poop.
One time I broke into his trailer on the set of McHale's Navy and made tea with his tidy whities. Pause for laughter. Instead of writing a joke.
So basically, there's one character in this show that gets called polyamorous. And it is in an episode that's about Dungeons and Dragons. So I'll say that's a fair hit. But a bunch of these children are playing D&D, and they go into the forest and they see all of these monsters. And in the distance, they see this giant multi-headed, multi-limbed monster. But it turns out it's not actually a monster. Everyone was hallucinating. And in fact, when they snap out of it, it is a giant play party. And like, fine, some of us do play parties, you know? Fine. I wouldn't call it polyamorous, but it's just like crass and gross. And they're adults that like don't stop sleeping with each other, even though some children have walked in, even though their own children have walked in. It just portrays polyamorous people as degenerate and gross and reckless with like child endangerment, you know? So that's the joke. It's not any deeper than that. I can't say I'm surprised. Anyway, in case you're wondering what your most divorced uncle is watching. So I am happy that it's brief and it's shallow and I don't gonna linger here. I'm not happy that it's not the only conservative cartoon on the list.
I'm so glad our big, beautiful, unconventional family has found a place to live.
There's an animated series called FreedomToons. A queer character comes out to his grandmother as polyamorous. Also, side note, the voice acting is terrible and the pace is so slow.
I'm polyamorous.
What does polyamorous mean?
Everything in me wanted to fix their comedic timing, but I have to show you how bad this is.
It's when you love multiple people.
Oh, well, I'm polyamorous too, sweetie.
No, not exactly.
Hey, you can't tell her she's not poly. That's her identity.
And then his grandma says she likes the idea.
I'm also quite polyamorous with the poor.
Oh, looks like someone has a lot of people to bake cookies for.
Oh, yes. I am polyamorous after all.
Like the punchline is just people looking at her weird. They didn't They didn't write jokes. The grandma goes to a polyamorous meetup and everybody is talking about this is how they love.
I'm so glad you understand.
Everyone judges us for our lifestyle.
Lots of people might judge you for loving Sweetie, but you have to do what your heart tells you is right.
That's so beautiful. I can't wait to tell my wife's boyfriend that.
Your what?
His wife has a boyfriend. So does mine. We're polyamorous.
What?
And that's the joke. Right-wing people are really bad at comedy. I don't know how else to put this. Like, I expected it to be worse in that, like, I expected it to sting. I guess I expected it to be funny, and I don't know why I expected that. Like, I don't know if being right-wing makes you bad at art, or if being so bad at art that you get rejected by the art community, if that then makes you right-wing. Because so many right-wing weirdos really want to be, like, entertainers and artists, and they can't. They can't. They can't be comedians. They can't make good movies. They can't paint. So Paradise P with the orgy monster. It is not polyamorous, even though the wiki calls it that. It is a party in the woods, which could happen. But either way, they wouldn't keep going if a bunch of kids walked in. So it just feels like right-wingers pointing and laughing at us and calling us bad for kids. FreedomToons, the whole thing is just one painfully drawn out punchline. But frankly, the way they talk about love, the meetup, even though that looked more like a 12-step meeting than a hangout, they didn't necessarily get it wrong because they didn't comment much on it at all. They just pointed and said, "You're weird." Editing Genevieve here. So after I recorded this, I found this other episode.
Exactly! And what if an LGBTQ adult needs to help a child explore in order to figure out their sexuality?
Obviously, I was way too generous with FreedomToons in terms of like how they're accurately representing us. So for the rest of the video, the rating is going to be way higher than it should have been. Anyway, moving on, let's get back to some things made by people whose children still talk to them.
We are the crystal gems. We'll always save the day.
Steven Universe is the most tender-hearted, cute, deeply loving, beautiful show. And it follows Steven, who's a part of the Crystal Gems, who have superpowers and are protectors of Earth. And anyone with a crystal gem has the ability to fuse together with other crystal gems to create a new, more powerful being. And the premise of fusion often implicitly and explicitly gets compared to a romantic relationship. So 2 people, 3 people, 6 people fusing together then would make a lot of polyamorous relationships. Because yeah, like there's a character called Fluorite who is the fusion of 6 gems. And at Comic-Con, when asked about this fan theory that Fluorite is polyamorous, the show's creator, Rebecca Sugar, confirmed it. But because of how much fusing happens in this show, because of the complexity of the types of relationships and the types of jealousies and competitions, and there feels like there's queer platonic love and more than just romantic love, it became pretty clear to me as I binged this whole series, because this was my first time watching the series, this has to be its own video. So I do want to acknowledge it here. I know a lot of people were excited to have me talking about Steven Universe, but the reality is like I want to do this topic justice, and I think it's going to be its own essay. So stay tuned. I will go into that more very soon. Pending a deeper dive into the full show, I can at least rate Fluorite here. The group love is shown with care, but 6 people all together kind of gives a bit Hollyhock's dad's vibes. Like it's sweet and lovely, but it bumps it down in realism for me. DOTA Dragon's Blood is a fantasy action adventure show based on the genre-defining DOTA series. And my partner gave me a very extensive video game history lesson on the origins of Dota all the way back to like Warcraft 3, right? So I got the background lore to the best of my ability. So this series, probably more than any other, is sort of on that line of what is Western animation, right? Because Netflix calls it an anime series. A lot of the fandom calls it anime. And I personally was like, let's play it safe then and put it in the anime box. But it's tricky because the entire writing staff is American. The showrunner is American. And the animation studio, Studio Mir, in Korea, not in Japan, this is a departure from their typical style. Like they usually do animation styles that are more marketed towards the Americas or towards Europe. And those are more than just technicalities. Like, from what I understand, DOTA also lacks a lot of the traditional anime elements. Like, it doesn't have a lot of the tropes. It doesn't have a lot of like the, cultural references and stuff. And so for that reason, I ultimately decided, okay, let's put it in this video. However, if you think it belongs in an anime video, I wouldn't fault you for that. And in that case, you can consider this a sneak preview to whenever I get around to doing the anime video, which will have many more series. I gotta pace myself on that one. All that said, trying to cross my T's and dots my I's because fandoms are intense. All that said, the non-monogamy in the story itself is pretty cut and dry. One of the main characters of the series is an elven woman, and she's in a polyamorous quad relationship. They call it a pod, but it's her and 3 other members. We see them being physically intimate with each other to varying degrees. We see a group encounter, and we even witness what is assumed to be like a magical flashback of romance between some of the characters. So there's this fluidity, but there is this very distinct quad shape to it. And later, chatting with humans, there's just confusion about the concept of monogamy, right? Which implies elven practice is polyamorous in nature, like that's the norm.
I'm sorry, I thought...
The 3 of us? No, we're not.
So it's true about humans. You have just one lover.
How do you handle more? I mean, I get it, the more the merrier in certain circumstances,
Davian.
but it must get crowded, which is not good.
It's true, there are more of us, so more ups, downs, more fighting. But we're family, always in it together.
I just love seeing something different than a triad. I feel like so many people can only imagine polyamory as like monogamy plus one, And not to hate on that if you were a duo that expanded to a trio, but there's so many shapes it can look. There's so many ways it can look. Like, can we please let go of the strangle grip that triads have on an imaginary world where you can write anything, man? Like, more quads, more weird polycule shapes, more solo polyamory. Let's have more variety, please. So it's not a huge part of the show, but it seemed significant. So here we've got polyamory as the norm in an entire culture, which is realistic. Like, a lot of indigenous groups have norms other than monogamy. And whether we see their love or their conflict, like, it all feels pretty grounded.
Planet Schlorp was a perfect utopia until the asteroid hit.
So Solar Opposites is another sci-fi animation, sort of in the vein of Rick and Morty, has one of the same co-creators, Justin Roiland, who is no longer attached to either of those shows. You don't have to Google why. But Solar Opposites follows a team of aliens from the planet Schlorp, Corvo, his partner Terry, replicants of each of them, and their pupa. They get trapped on planet Earth and go on various adventures just trying to survive and thrive. They're aliens. They don't experience love or sexual desire the same way that we do, we're told. But as the seasons go on, the writing just sort of slowly evolves to just make them life partners, Like, they're doing life together and they're more than like just colleagues or just friends. There's a couple of moments that really drive this home. Like when Corvo and Terry run into this guy, the Red Goobler, and then the 2 of them sleep together. And Terry's kind of jealous about it, which, if they were just professional colleagues, like, why would he be upset about who he slept with? Similarly, on the inverse, when Terry hooks up with Malcolm Gladwell, like the pop psychology writer, Corvo comes across as a little bit jealous at first, but then he supports them. So it's got this sort of blurry, together but with other people mood about it, right? And the creators were asked about it around this time, and they basically said, yeah, it didn't start out that way when we started writing it, but at this point, they are in a committed relationship, they do love each other, they do go on vacation together, they pay bills together, right? So confirming that they're partners in a bit more of a traditional sense while also being with others. And just in case anybody needed to be hit over the head with it, right? Because a lot of normies, they're like, you're not partners unless I see you kiss. Kiss, kiss, smooch, smooch, now you're together, right? Otherwise, it's not real, So queer platonic love doesn't really get validated. Every time I talk about QPRs, I'm told I'm reaching. Anyway, there's a Valentine's Day special where Terry and Corvo try to get rid of all the love in the world. They're bitter about it and they don't feel love, they think. And then it basically brings about an apocalypse. So they're like, oh, shit, we gotta undo this. We gotta, put love back into the world. And then the only way to do that is to put intense true love under this beam, this ray. And so not only do Terry and Corvo have true love, but when they kiss, they save the world. I mean, it's sweet. It's a little heavy-handed, but like that's just, I see love in a lot subtler things. So maybe I didn't need to be hit over the head with it so much. But then they like get married and it's official. And the next season wearing a shirt that says gay, you know, because subtlety is dead in this world. But it's a fun show. If you like Rick and Morty, you'll like Solar Opposites. Going from coworkers to living together to romantic partners and spouses is totally possible. Having love so big you can save the world, that's going to bump it down. I would be surprised if I have to explain The Simpsons branding to you. But as long as I can remember, I grew up watching them in the 90s, and in my opinion, they have not been The Simpsons since the 8th season. Anyway, all that said, in season 23, Lisa grows up and gets in a polyamorous triad, ever so briefly. So the scene starts out with Christmas pictures, and Lisa mentions that she's not sure she wants to have her own kids.
You'll understand one day when you have kids of your own.
Who says we're gonna have kids of our own?
And we see all of them go through phases. Lisa goes through a goth phase, a Sailor Moon phase. We see her enter college. Then she comes home with a girlfriend. And the next year she comes home with 2 girlfriends. Then she graduates and then marries a man. And of all the men, it's Milhouse. And so The Simpsons is like saying this was a phase for her. And I'm not saying that like if you have a girlfriend and then you have a boyfriend that you're not still queer. I'm saying I think the show is trying to say she experimented in college. And it would be fine if like she seemed overjoyed with her life. But look at her on her wedding day. Like she does not want to be there. Like, girl, do you have to do this? Like call up your exes. They were cute. And then we see her pregnant, where as a kid, she was doubting if she would want that. And again, it's like, nah. Like a real person, sure, change your mind about that, right? Discover something new about yourself in adulthood. But when writers show a young person doubting if they want kids, and then they just go ahead and have kids when they get older and they come to their senses, like, I don't love that. I don't love that. It's a comedy. It's silly. It's not consequential. And I'm going to get mad about it. So not a whole lot more to say about that other than let Simpsons die. Can they just please put Simpsons out of its misery? Like, please just let it end.
Yes, The Simpsons have come a long way since an old drunk made humans out of his rabbit characters to pay off his gambling debts. Who knows what adventures they'll have between now and the time the show becomes unprofitable.
It's a brief joke, but a joke nonetheless, right? And some people do try non-monogamy and then decide they don't want that. But yeah, they seemed happy in the pictures, so could have been worse. Carol and the End of the World is a tragic comedy with 3 different examples of polyamory and a deeper reflection on how true community is at odds with end-stage capitalism. Everyone on Earth gets a year heads up that the Earth is about to end. And the majority of people in the world get hedonistic or go traveling or they do all of the things that they've always wanted to do in a very like outgoing, pleasure-seeking kind of way. And Carol, our main character, is very shy and reserved and kind of misses the days when she could just be an accountant going about her work. So it's quirky and funny, and everybody in the show is having this collective existential crisis. And in the first episode, we also meet Carol's parents, who are elderly nudists in a polyamorous triad. And making the most of their final days, the 3 of them decide to go on this long cruise.
Your love it's a beautiful thing.
Oh, well, thank you.
You guys looking for a 4th, or?
It's a very carefree and hedonistic cruise, you know, very queer, very, you know, sex positive. And they're very in love, and everyone sees it.
Can't sleep? Just happy.
And look, I'm not trying to bring the mood down, but I can't not say it. What is it with these old couples wanting a younger black man? I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it's weird that writers have made this a trope specifically. This character, Michael, he is their doctor or nurse. We never see him outside of his medical attire. He is always in his professional garb. There's even pictures of him, you know, up on their mantle, and he's wearing his stethoscope in that. Like, he's never not in the role of taking care of them. And it's just weird to me, this sort of fantasy of like, as you age, you're going to get somebody who's basically giving you a service. and that fantasy continues to be a young black man is weird. It's weird. That said, of all these examples, I do think that Carol at the End of the World handles it the best in that they flesh him out. Like, he's three-dimensional a bit more. He's got his own scenes. He's got his own feelings, an inner world that, like, aren't all entirely about the couple that he's with. And they get a happy ending when Michael proposes to both of them.
You've both been by my side over the years, and...
Oh, my God! How wonderful!
Of course, Michael. Of course.
So that is the polyamorous triad of the show. At one point, it's mentioned that Carol plays matchmaker to get together a quad.
Multiple instances in which Ms. Cole played matchmaker, resulting in several couplings and at least one polyamorous quad.
And that is celebrated and treated as normal. There's also another polycule of like 8 people, which is atrocious. So basically, a man passes away, no one seems to know his name. Carol finds out who he is and tracks down his wife. And the whole goal is to give the body to this wife. But when they arrive, the wife didn't even know that he was missing.
Hi,
54.
David. There
55.
are people here.
He'll be right down. 57.
It's actually been weeks since I've seen David. It's been so busy here with all the renovations happening. It's stressful, you know, but thank God I have Robert.
63.
David! For Christ's sakes! You have guests!
Ma'am? David is...
Hope everyone likes smoothies.
So this woman has a bunch of different husbands she seems to have like really shallow feelings for, and each of them looks incredibly different. Again, it's like a gotta catch 'em all Pokemon kind of deal.
Oh, they're just looking for David.
Who?
What was it you wanted to say to him anyway?
So I don't know if it's like polygamy or if it's just sort of this harem that she has. It's kind of unclear. They're also raising a kid there, which reinforces like this is a household and a family. It's not just like a sex party or something. Like they all live there together. One of the husbands was so disposable that they didn't know that he was gone, and they definitely didn't seem to care if he was dead.
Donna, those people didn't care about David.
You don't know this man. Maybe he liked being the seventh wheel.
So they wind up taking care of the body themselves. They'll give him more reverence and give him a more honorable funeral than his own wife would. And what I like about this show is that they have that example, but it's not the only example. That's always what I would love to see more of, is like if you're showing somebody being terrible, don't make that be like the only example that exists in that universe. We also see polyamory be incredibly loving. And that contrast means I can actually enjoy the scenes about polyamory, even if it's a terrible person. And this all happens in the backdrop of The Distraction, which it's a floor of an office building where a bunch of people, Carol included, have decided they just want to be distracted, do meaningless tasks until the world ends. And it kind of calls attention to the fact that when there is this monotony, when there is this like filling your whole life up with tasks and work, that you actually don't have time to think about the things around you. And while that is a choice for the people in this show, that is not a choice for everybody in the real world. And like, what if we did have more time? You know, I don't think it's an accident that during lockdowns, when people have more time on their hands, that's when a lot of realizations happened. That's definitely when I saw polyamory skyrocket, where people were like, wait, how do I love? Why do I do things this way? If we pause for even a little bit, we might be questioning why things are the way that they are. I kind of wasn't prepared for how beautiful this show is and how much it hits, you know? Because now that they care about each other, they actually aren't running away from their feelings anymore. And for the first time since the start of the apocalypse, together they cry.
What began with Ms. Cole learning the names of her coworkers has since evolved into a kind of community. A community of people who care for each other, who have chosen to care for each other, in spite of the pain that might entail given the current circumstances.
They're a community of people who've chosen to care for each other in spite of the pain. Even though the end of the world is coming, that we can find affection with each other and rely on each other. Isn't that the whole point? The whole premise of the show being that if norms were gone, how would you live your life? The amount of polyamory was really nice. So let's get to the rating. When it comes to David's wife and her 7 partners, it kind of reminded me of Futurama, just like one woman with a harem of dudes she doesn't really care about. So there are some cold and selfish people in polyamory. There are big polycules who live together, but this setup just seemed pretty over the top. But for Carol's parents, they were not the punchline, like not at all. People commented on how solid and beautiful their love was. So those are the examples I could find. Do you know of any others? I'm happy to do a part 2, in addition to my Steven Universe essay. So if you like what I do and want more people to find me, the algorithm apparently loves comments and likes. And if you're curious about polyamory in general, or you just want to hear like more of the serious stuff and the education, I have hundreds of polyamory resources on Patreon. So check that out. If that's of interest, I'll link it down below. If you made it this far, thank you so much. Bye. I love you.